What is identity? How do I as an individual relate to my family and the social structures or the human society? Have you ever wondered, is identity given or made? Well, in this episode, we will be touching base on identity, what is identity, and how do we relate as individuals, relate to the entire social structures. Hello everybody, welcome to SA Sociology Hub. My name is Thandeka Sibanyoni and I will be taking you through identity. What is identity? So some say that identity is how I define myself, but oftentimes we think about just us but how do I as a sense of being relate with others in my identity? Right? So is identity given or made? Identity can be defined as a sense of self that is established by my unique characteristics, the affiliations I have, whether it's religion, my culture, my family, etc. Right? And the social roles that I carry as an individual. So is identity given or made? For example, there are known things or there are arguments that our identity is given. For example, when we were born a certain way, when I'm born with a certain sex. For example, I'm a woman, I'm a girl, I'm a boy. I didn't choose that, right? I just find myself born with these characteristics, and I'm not white, I am brown, so I didn't choose to be this way. You find yourself born elokishini or emasabapini. That's not something that you choose. You find yourself born in South Africa and not Europe, for example, and these form part of who you are, right? But as we grow and we interact with certain structures, social structures, maybe your affiliations, your religion, you form identity based on that, right? And so I wouldn't say that identity is given, like just given, or it's just made. I would argue that my argument is that we form our identity, like some scholars argue that we form our identity through the interactions we have with certain social structures. So think of an avocado, which has a seed, which is you, the individual. And then there's your family, right? And then there's the outer layer, which is your society and the social structures you find yourself in or that you interact with. As a whole, it's an avocado, but there's also an individual, the individual seed which makes up this whole avocado. So in South Africa, there's a law that says a person can't drink alcohol if they are under 18. Yes, they can't drink alcohol under 18. That's an identity, a South African identity. It's a law that guides us. But there's also agency. There are children that drink before the age of 18, and so this just shows that, and I mean, when a person is born into a family, your family takes care of you. It gives you an identity, but there's a certain age that a person now can go off and choose their own identity. And this is seen with maybe moving out of your home after 18 or getting married. That's where you get to leave the nest and form your own identity. And so this points to the fact that we don't just live with an identity that is given. We are also living with a formed identity, and these balance as we interact with certain characteristics, certain structures, as I interact with my family, my school, the people around me, and what I'm exposed to, and the culture, today's culture or the current culture, and my religion. And so we pick and choose and choose and choose and choose until we and we don't just stand, and because society changes over time, so we don't just live in one point, right? So we could argue that we adopt and repel as we interact with certain structures. I would also say that identity is not just self or individual. It's, yes, the individual, but there's also a social responsibility that we have. And so we can't just do what we want, because we find ourselves born in certain communities. We find ourselves born in the human race, in the human society, and that's who we are. Our generation tends to focus only on the self, what I want, but the older generation used to focus on the outside, your responsibility, the responsibility that you had. So that played, it took so much from you as an individual. But I think it is very important to understand that in as much as there's the self, there's also the social responsibility that we each have. So, for example, in South Africa, there are laws, there's a constitution that guides us, and that's part of who we are, that's our identity, all right? The spirit of Ubuntu is what guides Africa, right? It guides us as South Africans, that I have to give due respect to humans on the basis that they are human beings. And I can't just be saying, okay, I want this, so because I want it, I'll just kill. I can't do that. I have to respect people. There's also an interesting theory by Ervin Goffman, who was arguing that all we do in society, everything is a stage and we're performing, right? And he put that the performance in 3 stages, that there's the front stage, the back stage, and off stage, being off stage. So the front stage is how I am behaving when I'm at work, I'll act professional, and I won't act like I'm drinking and whatnot, I will try and maintain professionalism. When you're in church, there's a certain way that you behave around people, right? And when you're at school, you behave a certain way. But there's also the off stage, which is when you are with your spouse or your family, right? So some people even say that they say to their spouses that, oh man, no one knows me the way you do. Another person will say, oh, I feel so safe when I'm with you, that's because you're now safer, or in the second part of your backstage. But there's also off stage when you're just alone and you don't have to portray a certain image. So do you think we are performing in our society? Do you think there's the on stage, off stage, and off stage, on stage, backstage, and off stage settings? And so there are 3 things that I would like you to take away, that as people form their identities, or you are forming your own identity, please question why you're doing a certain thing, question why you've been doing something like that, or why there are certain structures in our society. Question with empathy. Secondly, when you question our government or our structures, you are able to demand better. So you are able to say, this is not fair, this is an injustice, or this is where we would like our society to go, right? And then thirdly, because we demand better and you are introspecting, you are able to support better. You are able to know, you understand where people come from. You understand why people do certain things. And so you have empathy and you have an understanding, and so you can support them. So thank you so much for interacting with SA Sociology Hub and watching. Please don't forget to comment, to share, to like, and to subscribe. I hope that there was some information or understanding that you got from this video. See you again next week. Bye.